And tonight we are going to be talking about dreams. And for anybody that hasn't had an opportunity to try this amazing product yet, I would highly encourage you to do so. I just spent a little bit of time today and realized from researching that 50% of Americans at some point or another suffer from insomnia. Now, it might not be today, but eventually they say 50%, but 50 million suffer from serious sleep disorder, and 100 million people on any given day would state that they did not get adequate sleep the night before. And when you start to add that up, that's, sleep problems lead to heart problems, obesity, disease, kidney disease, high blood pressure, and it's a real telltale sign of people who are suffering from depression. Again, that's not us talking about that. This is every expert out there that says what sleep or lack of sleep can do for your health. And so, Matt, if you wouldn't mind, give us a little background on this amazing product, yourself, et cetera, and explain to our, wonderful consultants why this could become one of their favorite products.
Well, you're all right if I share my slides with you, okay?
Please do.
Okay. And let me do a screen share here. Let's see. Oh, give me a second.
Is that letting you share there, Matt?
Yeah,
you just turned it on right as you okay.
Yeah, it'll take me just a second here to let me try it again. Okay, and then there. How's that? Is that good?
Looks great. Yes.
Okay. I won't give you a big background about myself. I think Darren did enough, and I think it's like the old saying that you can be your biggest cheerleader, but either you'll find out in the next 10 minutes if I know what I'm talking about. So, and it's funny because when you bring up sleep, Darren, and this product, I have to tell you that of all the products I've ever formulated, this is probably my favorite, and not my favorite because I like it, because it tastes the best. I mean, it tastes great, and it's not because it's real sexy or anything like that. I'll tell you why I love it is because I use this product every night. And if I didn't, I wouldn't get a good night's sleep. And I've tried to go off of it, and it just doesn't work. My sleep goes right back to crap, and that's the clinical term, crap. So let me tell you a little bit. And there's the thing about sleep is when you think about it, what's worse than a bad night's sleep, and the answer is repeating that night after night. And Darren already gave you some of these stats up here, and I'm just going to make one comment about the 40% of the population has insomnia. Well, insomnia is a clinical term. That doesn't mean just a little bit of sleep problems. That's major sleep problems. So when you total it up, I don't know anybody over the age of about 40 and especially 50 that doesn't have sleep issues. Very rarely do I meet someone that says, "Oh yeah, I get a good night's sleep." What they usually say is, "I sleep like a baby," which means they're up every 2 hours crying and hungry and with a wet diaper. But I think Darren, you did a great job of showing the comorbidities that you get with sleep. And so getting a good night's sleep really, and as we get older, I don't know that I'll ever get back to those days as a teenager where you could go to sleep at midnight and wake up at 12 or 1 o'clock the next day. Those days are probably gone forever. But but getting a good 7, 8 hours of sleep every night is the older you get, it just gets harder and harder. And so let's talk a little bit about why DreamZ does this and why it's so important. Um, and I'm going to just skip this slide because Darren, you did a great job doing that. Let's talk about how sleep actually works. And this is really important because there's a lot of misnomers about sleep and about REM sleep and deep sleep. And deep sleep or slow wave sleep is the sleep that basically regenerates your brain. It's like the analogy is like your computer, how your computer, when you leave it on, it gets too many programs going, it gets tied up and then you can't, the functions just don't work. And so when you turn it off and turn it on, it just cycles through and gets everything running kind of back to normal. That's what slow wave deep sleep does. And you can see that slow wave deep sleep happens in the first 4 hours of your sleep cycle. It's not what happens. A lot of times we think that it's when we have active dreaming that is when we have the real slow wave sleep. That's really not the case. You have a lot of REM sleep and active dreaming in those last 3 to 4 hours, and you have more of that. But your real deep sleep comes when it's that really regenerating where the cells rebuild, where your body regenerates, where you turn off your computer and start it back up. And so getting to sleep, and this is going to come in really important when we talk about melatonin and then how CBD and the cannabinoids really work. So here's the question people always ask, and you might get this from anybody you talk to. They say, well, I tried CBD and it didn't really help my sleep. And there's a lot of different reasons why that can happen, but the biggest reason is usually bioavailability. They're usually not getting very much of the CBD they take. And number two, CBD alone doesn't work. And we'll talk a little bit about why that happens. And then there's also other, we call it varin profile, and we'll get in a little bit about that. It's the other cannabinoids along with the CBD that can really help with sleep. Now let's talk about bioavailability first, and the reason people don't get what they're taking. The Achilles heel of the cannabinoids, whether it's CBD, whether it's THC, whether it's any of these products, is that they're only absorbed about 3 to 6%, which means that they don't come into activity or take action for 60 to 90 minutes. This means that 94% of a cannabinoid product, whether it's CBD or a full spectrum product, it means 94% of it's going right down the drain. And the analogy I always give, and I tell this all the time, it'd be like taking, Darren, that nice, Range Rover or his wife's Jaguar. Actually, I've seen his wife's car, that nice Jeep that she drives. It'd be like taking that over to the gas station and getting premium fuel and then dumping 94% of it onto the pavement. Now, no one in this world would do that, but everybody does it every day with the supplements they take, and especially with CBD and hemp products. They'll take a product and that's only 3% or 6% bioavailable, and they'll dump it onto the ground and they'll wonder why their car, why their body isn't running. It's the same way with a car. A car's not going to run if the stuff goes right through it. So why does the DreamZ, why does the cannabinoids in the TM3, the TM3 Zorb is what it's called in the TM3, why does that work when nothing else does? And I'll tell you why. It's because it's been fully water, it's become fully water soluble or bioavailable in the same way the body does. The body is about 60% water, and the whole intestinal tract and the oral mucosa, where you take these products in at the first, have a have a water barrier. And the only way a product can cross, a compound can cross that barrier is to be water soluble. It doesn't matter if it's really tiny, it's going to make its way through. It can't. Oil and water do not mix, and your body has a way of protecting itself from too many lipids. And so the way the body breaks down things into these tiny water-soluble molecules called micelles. You can see this little picture of it right here. And basically what it is, it's the compounds in the middle, and the outside is water. And imagine this is just a cross-sectional cut. These are thousands of these little water droplets with a tail attached to this oil compound. And that goes through the mucosal lining or the intestinal lining and goes right into the bloodstream. So you're also not waiting it to go through the liver and go through first pass metabolism. It's just going right into the bloodstream quickly and goes, whether it goes into the brain, whether it goes into the organs, whether it goes into the tissues, you get 85% bioavailability we've shown in clinical trials. And this is representative of two bioavailability studies. The one on the left here was a single dose study where we gave somebody a single dose, and within 15 minutes, you had half of the CBD that was available to the body, and within 45 minutes, you were at full strength, whereas you had over here the normal standard CBD. Now, what's interesting about this, I'll just make one little plug here, and that is that in about a month, there's going to be a major journal coming out that's a medical journal that's going to publish all this bioavailability data. And it will have one of the discussion parts in this journal is going to compare this to the pharmaceutical drug. There is a pharmaceutical CBD product out there called Epidiolex. And Epidiolex, it's given to kids for a rare seizure disorder called Dravet's. And Dravet's syndrome it's rare in children. This is an orphan drug. That's why the CBD costs between $500 to $1,500 a month for these patients. And the amount that they get is equal to what we give in a very small dose. And this article is going to talk about that in this publication. So you're going to get a lot of eyes on this technology here in about 30 days. This on the right-hand side was a long-term study, 60 days, where we measured CBD after 60 days and showed it was over 85% bioavailable, which means the blood levels were the same as what they were taking in their oral dose, almost completely. So now the question is, how do these things work? And there used to be when CBD first came out, and some of you might have told this story. I actually told this story, so I'm going to plead guilty. We used to say that CBD works on the CB2 side and THC works on the CB1 side. And so, that's why you have this, they used to call it an entourage. That's actually just complete BS. That's another medical term that says it's not true. What really is going on here is that the cannabinoids or the different cannabinoid compounds have different activities, and the CB1 and CB2 receptor sites in the body are the primary way that cannabis works in the body. And your body has internal cannabinoids. It's one of them's called anandamide and the other one's called 2-AG. And these cannabinoids, this is the way they discovered this whole science, is your body produces these as you get older and as we're exposed to different toxins and our body doesn't work as well, we just stop producing it and they get overwhelmed that we can't produce so much. And these CB1 and CB2 receptor sites don't get enough activity. And so we have to take exogenous cannabinoids cannabinoids, which is where the cannabis plant comes in. And the cannabis plant that we're talking about is the cannabis sativa plant, which has THC below 0.3%. That's known as hemp. If it gets above 0.3%, it's marijuana. So these plants are grown to not have THC. And when they go, they hit these different CB1 and CB2 receptor sites. Well, CB1 is a really important site for sleep. And the reason why is you can look here is the primary brain and spinal cord. If you have something that's getting into your brain and spinal cord, that's where you're going to have some of the immediate effects of relaxation. You can see where you get the mood relaxation, the ability to cope with stress. These things, they don't make you tired. CBD and cannabinoids don't necessarily make you sleepy. What they do is they calm your mind down. And any of you that have been taking these products and have use of them, that's the beautiful thing. And that's the beautiful thing about a product like DreamZ is that you don't have to get high to calm your mind down. You know, people used to have to get THC to get the CBD. Ironically, it's not THC that calms the mind down. It was the CBD when people used to, well, they still smoke joints, and that's another medical term, joint. When they used to smoke marijuana and they get really calm and they get chill, they'd say, well, that's the marijuana. Well, that's actually not THC, which is the psychoactive part. That was actually the CBD and the other cannabinoids calming the brain down. So what you're getting in a product like this is all the good part of calming the brain down, slowing things down, and yet not giving the psychoactivity. And this CB1 becomes a really important part of that. And CBD itself is an indirect inhibitor to that site. CB2 is another activity of some of the other cannabinoids, and it is also indirect with CBD too. But where it gets interesting for DreamZ is the other cannabinoids. And you can see here, I know this is a little bit complicated, but just follow me here for a minute. When these plants synthesize, they start out as an activated fatty acid in the plant, and then they start, just like as a baby is being born, being developed in a womb, you start growing all these different organs and eyes and ears, and a plant does the same thing. It starts to develop, and it starts to break off into these different trees, so to speak. And CBG, you might have heard this at some time, is the mother cannabinoid. Well, it's only mother on one side because CBG is formed by olivitic acid, and then the derivatic acid on the other side forms CBGV, these are called the varins. The varins become really important when we go back and look at the properties because they have a lot of activity on CB1 and CB2 receptors. And so when you're wondering about why this can give you more relaxation than just CBD alone, and why it has an ability to slow things down and have such a strong activity, it's because of these varins. And this is a slide here that kind of shows you what it kind of does. And I know Darren and I got in this discussion several times about that it activates the vanillinoid receptors and has and also has an activation in REM sleep and in deep sleep, and it slows down your cardiovascular system. In our sleep study that we did, and I'll show you some of that data, the heart rate actually slowed down by 4 beats per minute, which is a lot. A lot of people will work really hard to get athletes will try to work really hard to get their resting heart rate down a few beats per minute. But with DreamZ, we were able to get it down by 4 beats per minute. And it also has effects on the metabolic and the cardiovascular system. And we can talk about those another time. But it's not like this just does one thing. the other thing, and that's CBDV and THCV, which is a non-active THC subtype, which is it's come down as the varin line, so it's not psychoactive. It has effect on the 5-HT1A receptors, which is the serotonin receptors. So that helps in anxiety, in depression, in schizophrenia, and in sleep also. And then the TRPV receptors help regulate body temperature and pain sensation. So this actually works kind of like you're taking a Tylenol or a Motrin and something to help you sleep and get in relaxation. So that's why I before this came along, I used to take a couple Motrins before I go to sleep. And you guys all know how bad that is for your stomach. But what is it? Either I don't sleep or I take something that's bad for my stomach. I chose the other route. So I think I could count on one hand the amount of Motrin I've had to take recently. So it's something that it really is kind of a combo product when it comes to sleep. Now, I mentioned the clinical study. We did a 150 patient double blind placebo controlled study and looked at sleep. The way we analyzed this is we didn't put them in a sleep lab, which is one way to do it. What we did is we gave all the participants a Fitbit, which is actually very validated clinical way to test sleep. And that Fitbit measured their active sleep, their dreaming, their heart rate, their temperature. And you can imagine with 150 patients, 100 of them were on the product, and then 50 of them were placebo. You can imagine how much data we had. I mean, it was like enormous. We could have probably published studies for 10 years based on the study all the data, but we actually picked just a couple of areas to really focus on. The one area we focused on was deep sleep, because that's one of the most important parts. You can see here, we had a 54-minute positive change, meaning that people on the product got almost an hour more of deep sleep. And we didn't say they got more sleep, we said they got deeper sleep. So that means they were in a deeper sleep. And and that's like, because you guys all know that when you sleep sometimes, you can sleep for a couple hours sometimes and feel more rested than if you slept 10 hours. It's the quality of sleep. But the patients also reported more active dreaming, and they also reported 18 minutes change in awake time. Now that means they did get more sleep because they weren't up in the night, waking up and having a problem go back to sleep. And I know for a guy who's my age, who's just a little older than Darren, who's just a young guy, that as we get older, we get up in the middle of the night to pee. That's another medical term. It's just part of getting older. And as a guy, your prostate just doesn't work as well. So you're up in the middle of the night going to the bathroom. Well, part of the problem for guys, and it does happen with women too, but not as much, is you go to bed, you get up to go to the bathroom, and then you can't go back to sleep. So then you're up watching ESPN at 3 a.m. till your mind slows down and you can get back to sleep. So in this study, we found that and this is personally, I can tell you that when I get up, I still get up to pee in the middle of the night, I go right back to sleep. So, and you don't just wake up, start thinking, because the product works all throughout the night. That's the cannabinoids. And when we get into melatonin, which is what we're going to talk about next, it actually doesn't. Melatonin is a pretty short-acting product. And why we teamed up melatonin with this was there's a really good rationale. And I know there's some people out there that are not big melatonin fans, but I can tell you that the data on melatonin is, and the older people get, melatonin's an essential. If your body produces melatonin, but as you get older, it produces less and less, and that's why sleep disturbances happen. And it's a hormone. It's regulated by sunlight. Sunlight stimulates it. Darkness. you have this with your circadian rhythm has a big deal to do with how melatonin is produced, and um, without it, you have a really hard time falling asleep. Now, there's some other benefits of melatonin. I don't know if you know this, but not only does it normalize your circadian rhythm and reduces the length of time needed to fall asleep, because that's what I find. I fall asleep a lot easier with melatonin. So with Dreamz, compared to just we have this product without melatonin in it, it still works on deep sleep, but you don't fall asleep as quick. That's the melatonin part of that. So helping you get into that deep sleep first, that's a big deal. The other thing that melatonin does is it helps synthesize collagen. And so I would encourage you, when you take this product, you take the ml, put it in your mouth, swish it around a little bit, and then swish around your teeth and gums, because the melatonin helps collagen and helps stimulate bone growth. I don't know if you know that, but this is good for your teeth and gums also. It's almost like a little dental care kit. And the cannabinoids also are anti-infective. So it's like a good little mouth rinse in the middle of the night before you go to bed. And this will help reduce your chances of having gum disease. So a little added benefit and that you'll see come out in some clinical studies also next month. And I'm not just saying that. That's actually been shown in clinical studies not with just any CBD, with this these cannabinoids themselves. So how do you take it? You just take 1 ml just put it, take a dropper and put it, like this, right under the tongue. Let it sit there for 15 seconds. Swish it around a little bit, and then you're good to go. I would suggest that you do it just 10 minutes, 15 minutes before you go to bed. Another kind of tip is, after you do it, don't jump on your phone and just start scrolling, because what you want to do is you want to not stimulate your brain, not get you more activated. So, it's just right before you go to bed, and you saw in the data, it gets in there, it starts to work within 15 minutes. You're going to have a lot of it already in there working, and by, you won't even count that many sheep before you go to sleep. So, anyway, that's kind of all I prepared for you guys. I thought that was a quick, something down and dirty. If you have any questions, we can talk about that. I'll just turn the time back to the panel, and we can go from here. Darren.
Hey, Matt, thank you. And there are a couple questions, but I went ahead and made a note of a couple of those medical terms, BS and P. So just so I can sound more like a doctor as I talk to Colby here. I'm going to change this out for a white coat. And I'll think I'm just so. Hey,
yes, Doctor. Yes, Dr. Oak.
Thank you, Dr. Okay, the first one that came in is from Ken. He says, is there an RSO or full spectrum version available? And that I don't know.
Probably what he's asking is there a THC version? And I'm guessing that's because full spectrum is kind of morphed, just so you know. We call this a full spectrum oil because it has multiple spectrum, and when we and technically when we buy the oil, it has a very, very small amount of THC, but by the time it gets into the product, it tests out at 0.0001. It doesn't show up at that, so we can make the THC free claim, and we still call it full spectrum. But I think what he's asking, is there a THC version of this? And the answer is, we don't make one for TM3. We are, as a company, we're just venturing into that area of THC. And I know that can help some people. The amount of people that THC really helps is actually pretty small compared to the number of people that use it. So, about 80% of the people can get by without using THC, and there is a subset of people that need it. And but we don't make a product like that right now.
Okay, Matt, next question. Of course, there's a few comments. Dee Dee says this happens to women too, getting through menopause, etc. And Brittany's saying I'm a fan of anything that helps sleep. And Vernon,
Can I make a comment about that?
please.
Because I don't want, and I'll tell you a personal story about that one, is that I started taking this. Well, I've been taking this exact product for probably 4 years, 5 years, and I've gone off of it. I thought, there's people will say, oh, well, melatonin burns out after a while, and you develop a tolerance for it, and and you read some studies that say they do, and some studies that say they don't. And so and that's the thing, just so you know, in medicine, and in clinical studies, there's an old adage that says stick around long enough and you can prove anything in a clinical study. And that really is you find that true all the time. But so you have to look at a bunch of different studies, and then you try your personal experience. And I can tell you that the melatonin, here's what is very true with melatonin, is you don't need a lot. That's why we say take 1 ml. Can you go up to 2 mLs? Yeah, you can. 2 mLs is not super high, but if you take 3 mLs, I can almost guarantee you that it won't work as well, because the more you do on melatonin, the worse it gets. You're better off to take a little more cannabinoids rather than going up on melatonin, because melatonin, you just need anywhere from a couple milligrams. Some people even only need it, below 1 milligram. And so I know what my body needs. I've kind of figured that out. But for a while, I started taking 3 or 4 milligrams. It was way too much. So there was other people said, well, you have to go off of it and then recycle. But I've never had to do that. I tried that, and I've just been on this continually. And I know a lot of people. We have a large number of people that are on this just continually. Now the question was menopause and women, and I can tell you, this works great, especially in postmenopausal women. However, if you're going through menopause and you're having the hot flashes and you're having all those menopause symptoms, you need to address those too, because one product, a sleep product, unless you're taking this and a half a bottle of scotch, you're probably not going to sleep through the night, because there is too many things going on. And I experienced this with my wife, because she used this for several years. It worked great. Then when she went through menopause, she struggled with sleep, but she had her doctor just tweak her progesterone and her testosterone and got those tweaked in. And that took several months. And because your body's just going through this enormous change of hormones. And once she got that tweaked in, this started working just like it always did. So that's the only comment I would make. If you're going through menopause, this will help, but it's not the cure-all. What you really need is to balance your hormones and get to a doc who knows what they're doing about hormone replacement and progesterone and testosterone and those, because that has a bigger deal to do with your sleep than just your circadian rhythm.
Matt, thank you for that. That's great advice. Vernon's saying, the benefits never end. One question that did come in that you did answer, but I think we ought to hit it head on, is Mary says, my work does a lot of random drug tests. Does the ingredient show positive on any drug test? Let's go ahead and address that.
Yep. So you heard me say there was a small amount of THC in here when we start in the raw oil, but because we test out at 0.0001, I mean, not that we show up at 0.0001, we don't even show up at 0.0001. We've had to test that low to send this to certain markets, and because it tests that low, it's virtually, we've never had anybody fail a drug test. Now I can't stand here and guarantee that no one's ever going to fail a drug test, because my lawyers tell me that, they could be getting secondhand smoke at a party and test positive and blame it on this. So, but by just taking this product, you're not going to fail a THC test. It's virtually impossible. There's just not enough THC the limit that goes under detection is 0.3%. So you would literally have to take like 100 bottles of this to even get close to that, and at one time, which you're not going to do. So
Yeah. It's fascinating because Japan and other countries eliminated everything, but now they are allowing products like ours in there, right at that level. So it's kind of,
well, they have to be below 0.0001, even at like somewhere like Japan. We had to test that to go into Taiwan with the product, and they made us test down to that. That's how we know we're 0.0001. We're below that. In the US, we only test to 0.0003, which is literally 1,000 times below the limit of detection for a drug test.
yeah. So again, like you said, never, but I think, and we know that if you do just take this product alone, you will never test positive.
We've had millions of doses, and I mean, literally millions of doses of this, never had a failure. Now, we've had a couple false positives every once in a while. Some will get a false positive, but the tests you take, the urine test that people take for this, about 40% are false positive, but they always have to do a confirmation test with a HPLC, which is a liquid chromatography, really sensitive test. No one's ever failed that.
Again, Matt, thank you for being with us tonight. I love listening to you talk. Every time you talk, I learn something new. And again, now even to the point where we're starting to believe that we're medical doctors instead of accountants and, marketers or anything else like that. If I see Darren wearing a white coat, I'm giving you a call just so that you can talk him off the ledge, basically. So anyhow, we're so grateful for you though, and for the Dreamz, and also for Matt, as those that have been around TM3 for a while would also know that Matt is the formulator of a couple of our other products and joins us at other times to talk about those being the daily detox and the relief cream. So we're just appreciative of him. Like I said, his knowledge and his background is second to none. And we're just grateful that he's partnered with us. So with that, I just want to say God bless. Remember, faith first, others second, and third. We'll see you guys all again next week. Thanks so much and have a fantastic, safe week.